Hello. I am getting you right now, Vinny. Let me make sure that I can make you a host. Are you there?
Hello, hello.
Hello. There you are.
Sometimes you forget how to work this app. I don't know about you, Summer.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? Let me
Okay.
I'm going to update the fortune cookie. And how about you see if you can stream to your.
Yes, I got it because I'm streaming to my personal YouTube this time and it seems to work. I wanted to try that. So there was
Okay.
something about anyways, I'll take it off of there and then put it on my public page, but for some
It's a
reason
Christmas miracle. Today, I
I
just
got
updated
it.
the cookie. Before and afters is what we're talking about today.
Yes. Yes, yes,
Let's
yes.
see.
And it's timely because I feel like there's been a lot of them this month. I don't know
Do you
about
think
you.
I don't see these? Oh, well, that's not true. I see the body positive ones. I don't see the.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because we're going to talk about both sides of the coin. So why don't we do our little intro, introduce the show, introduce who we are, and then we'll dive into the hot topic.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Okay. Okay. So this is Death to Diets. We are both working in a field where we help people who are, typically have sort of been chronic dieters who have realized that diets don't work and they're fed up with it and they're done with that and they want to just feel better about themselves and live their lives and heal their relationship with food and their bodies. And so we created this show to really just call out the bullshit that we see in diet culture and in the dieting industry and the weight loss industry. This is never to shame people who engage in diets or want to lose weight. We never shame the individual. We never judge the individual. This is more about talking about the cultural issue as we see it and how that affects the way we feel about ourselves and the problematic messaging. And so I'm Summer Inanen. I'm a professionally trained coach specializing in body image, self-worth, and confidence. And I also host my own podcast called Eat the Rules. Vinny, where do you want to
I
go?
You've got your elevator pitch down. Anytime I'm like, who am I? I'm like, oh. You're just like, I'm Summer Internet, la 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 la, and I'm just there daydreaming, thinking, yeah, Summer, there she is with all of her vowels in her name. You said so. I'm Vinny Wellesby, formerly Victoria, and I am a fat activist, TEDx speaker, change maker, incredibly good looking, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That is it. And we don't have any trigger warnings today because we're not going to be showing any before and after photos. We're just going to be talking about them, right? So
Yes.
there's nothing that, yeah, we're not going to be talking about. I don't think so. No, no, no.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why did we come up with this topic?
I don't know. You came up with it, didn't you?
I'll tell you the story.
What is the story?
I was getting on an airplane and I was like, I wanted a magazine. And I was at the airport and they had the People magazine and it had Betty White on the cover. And it was so weird because it was like the day or two after Betty White had passed away. But it was the cover celebrating her turning 100 because
Oh,
obviously they had like put this magazine together prior to
yeah.
her passing.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I bought the magazine and one of the sections, which was interestingly enough buried in the back, was the section about like these people lost half their size. And I don't know if you remember this, but that used to always be the cover story for People magazine in January. Like I remember that was
Oh, did
always
it?
on the cover. So it was interesting that it was buried in the back. There was no mention of it on the cover. At least I don't think so. Um,
Betty
and
White
so,
Betty White did her badassness and was like, bitches, I'm leaving, put me on the cover and put those other shit into the back.
exactly, exactly,
That's
exactly.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so I read it for research and it just got me like just super fired up about it. And I thought we could have a really cool discussion because we also see kind of like in the reverse before and after in the body positive world. So people showing, like I used to be thin and now I've gained weight and I'm actually happier. And we wanted to have a discussion around both of those things because, yeah, it's just sort of interesting the impact that these pictures and the narrative that the impact that it has on us.
Yes, yes, yes. And I have been exposed to this recently because I don't know if you know, Summer, but you can actually check out magazines from the library. And so I was like, do you know what? I'm going to look at some really trashy magazines because I haven't looked at them in years and you don't have to pay for them. So I was like, let's look at this one. Gay Times, yes, please. Fishing Weekly, So I just like skimming lots of different magazines and yeah, that I did see that stuff, and I used to love before and after pictures. That would be my favorite thing.
I
So
was
I
wondering, yeah, did you? Because I'm trying
loved
to
it.
remember if I did. I
I
don't know.
loved it. Yes, because I used to be like, oh my god, they used to be such a fat loser like me, and now look at them. Like they've changed their life around. If only I do what they did, then I can be like them. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah. So you used to actually find that inspiring.
Oh yeah, I loved it. Whenever I'd get the Weight Watchers magazine, oh, and it was my goal to be in the Weight Watchers magazine because I was like, I am the even my what do they call it? The leader. The leader was like, oh, you could be in the magazine, and I was like, yes. And thank fuck it never happened because I quit, didn't quit. Diets. It just didn't happen. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So
Well, I worked as a nutritionist like 12 years ago or 12 years ago, and I used to take before and after pictures of my clients and like do
did
like
you?
challenges where we would take before and after pictures. And so I feel
No.
really bad about it now because I realize like how damaging and problematic it was. But
I can't
um
even imagine you doing that, Summer. Like it's just so foreign to everything I
uh
know about you.
yeah, but
Like,
it's like when that's your business, like that,
mm,
I mean, that's what a lot of people use to sell like nutrition services and things like that. And the kind of like dirty behind the scenes of it is like, you realize that clients don't actually stay that way, that it's like it's a yo-yo
mm,
cycle. And so thankfully I had my own like awakening with it that then allowed me to, make amends, hopefully, and move away from that. But I
definitely,
was
definitely.
total. I absolutely was guilty of that because I just didn't. I was so in it myself in terms of thinking that
Yeah,
like, well, this is, I'm helping people get healthy and I'm helping them be confident and all this stuff.
yeah,
But the reality is like I would say the vast majority of them still struggled with food, still hated themselves, and ended up
yeah.
gaining weight back. Like it was never permanent.
So, what did
Um,
you when you were taking those photos? You mentioned, oh, it was temporary, that weight loss. Did you know that at the time, or were you like, that's
no,
it? Now they've started their life and they're going to be amazing.
yeah, no, I was like, and they just need to keep doing it, and like, and it, so that that's why I empathize with people in this industry because I think if you don't know better, you don't know better, right?
Mm-mm.
Um, which is why like I don't like to kind of shame individuals. Like I prefer to just call out the overall issue because like
Mm,
I was in that frame of mind where I was like, oh no, like, and I was doing it from like the health perspective. And um, even like I pulled out some of the quotes from like the People magazine I read where
mm,
it's like, no, we're not using diets. Like my slogan was like, it was like something around like no, like it was a non-dieting slogan. Like I can't remember exactly what it was.
wow.
My in-laws had a postcard, one of my old marketing postcards from when my nutrition business. They had it like in their. I found one in their basement, and I saw the slogan, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I used to say that. Like I shouldn't even remember,
Wow.
but and
Wow.
that's the same thing that was kind of being some of the stuff that was being echoed in this People magazine was that it was like one of them was like, I swapped fad diets for counting macronutrients. And like, you have to get rid of the, I was like, yeah, it's like,
I swap fad diets for another fad diet, but I don't believe it's a fad diet.
what? Yeah. Or like, it was like, you have to lose a diet mentality. And this person was doing like what's deemed like a very restrictive diet. I won't mention which one, but I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Oh my God. It's so
Yeah,
funny, like
co-opted.
the mind trickery that we do. And even, you saying that, you were saying it's a non-diet thing. You were ahead of your time, Summer, because, all the diets are doing it now. But if you were saying like I'm a non-diet diet all of those years ago, then I mean, you were on the pulse. You were doing it. Obviously.
Well, hopefully they'll find their way out like I did.
Yeah.
I was an early adopter of getting out of that garbage, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was it's like it's interesting to reflect back on it and just realize like I feel really bad. Like I hope I've been able to, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, you've like paid your penance. Oh my God, like 100 times over. It's just so interesting to think about the way that we were thinking back then. And I found a note because I like keeping note. On the Notes app, I like keeping notes, and I've got notes back and like to like 2013 or something. And so I looked for a search for a word. I can't remember what it was, like health or something. Yeah, because I was looking for health at every size in my notes. And I had written this thing to myself about, what negative thoughts and beliefs do I have about myself? And one of my negative thoughts or beliefs was, I will never be thin. And then I wrote myself like a pep talk of, oh my God, yes, you are going to be thin. I mean, come on, you're going to be so thin and you're going to work out every single day and people are going to say, how do you do it? And you're going to be like, it's so effortless. And I was like talking about how healthy I was. And I was like, working out every day, like walking around with a six pack, like what the heck? I couldn't even remember that I wrote that. And I was thinking like that. I was like really trying to positive, manifest being thin. And
Yeah.
it was only like, I don't know, 7 years ago or something that I was thinking like that, which is absolutely
Wow.
bananas to me. And
Yeah.
and I thought I was like, I probably thought I was body positive at the time. So anyway, it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. Right. It's like it gets all muddled. I mean, it gets
Mm.
co-opted and muddled, and we convince
Mhm.
ourselves of things just to convince ourselves of things.
Yeah, we have to, right? We have to. So we both
Yeah.
asked our audiences, what do you think of weight loss before and after pictures? I've got my results here.
Hmm.
And I said, do you love them or do you hate them? And 13% said love and 87% said hate. So what do you think of weight loss before and after pictures? 13% said love, 87% said hate. And then a couple of people messaged me saying, oops, I said love, but I meant to say hate. So we can presume that number is a little bit lower than 13%. Let's say 10%. And I really get that kind of the love thing of seeing the before and after pictures. It feels so intoxicating, especially if you're new to this stuff, because like I mentioned at the beginning, I just would feel so inspired by seeing these everyday people, what I would see as them changing their lives. But the reality is probably very different, isn't it, Summer?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like it's one season of their life. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we all know that there's like the after and then like what happens after that, what happens like 2 years
The
after
after
that,
all.
what happens 5 years after that. And I think you and I both know that the majority of people blame it on themselves. They're like, well, I just didn't try hard enough, or, I didn't have enough willpower. And the reality is that like none of those things are true. Your body was just legitimately trying to keep you alive, and that you weren't meant to be like on that diet, which is how I felt like, which is how I feel when I see these images of these people in this magazine. And I'm like, they tell this story and the narrative is like, the words they use are like, I finally love myself. It's like Christmas
Mm.
morning, like, all, like
Oh,
and it sells that idea. And I almost feel bad. Like, I don't want to pity people, but I'm kind of like, oh, like, what's that going to look like in 2 years or 3 years? And
mm,
you've been
mm.
featured in this magazine, like you were like
Ah,
the poster child for
yeah,
success. It's like, how much more damaging is that to you if your body can't sustain that? Like, if which
yes,
majority of our bodies can't, without maintaining disordered behaviors, which for the
yeah.
most part, like, our body's going to fight back against.
Yeah, that's such a good point about, they've been in a magazine and how much shame they probably feel after, because, the after, the before and after, the after when 95% plus of those people are now bigger than their before picture. And like, that must feel like shit.
Yeah.
My camera just went off. That must feel really, really bad. And yeah, it makes me thankful that when I was doing all that dieting stuff, there wasn't, I didn't have social media and all that type of stuff. But I was still a massive bell end about it and told everyone about the fact that I was losing weight and I was such a good person. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I
mm,
mean, that's like what you're supposed to do, right? Like
yeah,
share with other people, stay accountable.
yeah. And I wonder, like, when I see before and afters, instead of being like, oh my god, I love it, I'm just like I have such deep compassion for that person because I just think exactly what you said. What are they going to be feeling like in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Because
Mhm.
it's probably going to be a lot of shame and um, hopefully they found another way, but so it's kind of like hoping for them that maybe this is the kind of final straw before they find fat positivity and anti-diet and all that type of stuff. But
Yeah.
you never know, right? So
Yeah, because for a lot of people, it's a lifetime
big.
sentence.
Yeah,
Membership. More grim is just call it a life sentence. But
yeah.
yeah,
Did you ever, Summer, when you were taking the before and after pictures, yeah, because before and after pictures. The before, the person's like, oh, like
look
they're wearing,
sad.
yeah, great clothes with holes in, like they're covered in shit stains, like they haven't brushed their hair in 3 weeks. They got bits of straw coming out of their hair, and they've got shit in their eyes and they're dribbling and stuff. And then the after picture, they've got full makeup and all that type of stuff, and probably posed and probably photoshopped. Would you ever, like, in the first picture be like, go on, stick your gut out a bit more, or
No, no,
none
no,
of
no.
that?
Mine weren't like that at all. Mine were like, like you look how you look and then you look how you look. Like
Oh, okay, okay, yeah.
I didn't like no, I didn't curate those in any way. No,
Oh, that's a
because
shame.
it was more in my mind. It was more for them to see the difference,
Yeah, yeah,
versus like something to use as like a like
a marketing thing.
a marketing thing. But social media wasn't really around much then, so thank goodness. Not in the way that it is now, and so
See, if there was
people.
social media, maybe you'd have like a sack in the back that you'd bring out and be like, put on this like ugly sack and like this, like on The Biggest Loser, and they would just make them wear really, like, I don't know
Yeah,
where the fuck they get these things
here,
from, like really
put this
unattractive.
bronzer on. I'm just gonna like use this spray tanner on you in the after to like make you
Yeah,
really
yeah,
like I'm gonna like contour abs on your body and
yeah.
make you look
Like,
really toned. No,
yeah. Oh
yeah,
my,
no. Yeah, and I like for me personally, I'm trying to think like if I must have found before and afters inspiring, but I also feel like there was like a few years of time where I was just perpetually frustrated because like it didn't matter what I did, like my body wouldn't change anymore.
mm,
And I feel like there was a point in time around there where I actually like they made me feel even more inadequate because it was just a reminder of
mm,
like, see, you can't do it, like there's something defective in you.
yeah,
But now when I see them, like I'm more just like, oh, like mm, I know what that's like
yeah,
I know what happens.
yeah. Like, wah, wah,
Yeah.
wah. And I'm if any come up in my social media, I'm immediately block. Oh God, I don't want to see that shit. Because even me, who I do this work constantly, that type of stuff can still be triggering. And so I'm like, get that out of my brain. So I don't know. I just think for other people who are still on the journey, and if they haven't um, curated their social media and they've still got things like that because it's kind of, like, oh, I kind of like looking at it, how much that's affecting people to still see before and after pictures. So my
Totally.
advice is if you still have anything like that, because like, oh, I know it's like a guilty pleasure to see it, I just really like looking at it, just get rid of that shit. It's probably not doing anything good for your brain.
Yes. and my survey was similar. It was like, actually it was stronger. It was 96% dislike and 4% inspiring. And someone said
Yeah.
that it triggers feelings of not being good enough, and it takes them right back to where they were when they were in that headspace. So yeah, I mean, obviously our results are going to be biased because the majority of people that follow us have similar belief systems, but
Because I was surprised. Like 13% of mine said love. I was like,
yeah.
Did you read the thing? Probably.
They might have read it wrong because you put love first. Like when I saw the screen capture of yours, it was a little like my mind would have thought the hate would be first, but you probably did get a couple people who hit it incorrectly.
So I think your results are probably the most accurate for our type of audience. But I think in the world in general, I think people probably be like 50-50 or even more that like him, right?
I would think so. Yeah, there's like a whole like good for them like mentality. You know, like it's still seen as like an accomplishment. Like your body is an accomplishment, and you know. So yeah, unfortunately, I would agree that it is probably skews more heavily towards people finding them inspiring.
Unfortunately, and I've just realized that I look at celebrity before and after pictures of, here's a picture of a celebrity when they were 20 and here's a picture of them now that they're 40. I just realized that I look at those pictures.
Oh, what makes you do that?
Shit, I don't know. Like I think I see it more as, isn't it interesting how what the hell?
I don't see those links. I don't think I've ever.
It's on my Instagram feed, and so it'd be like, celebrities when they were 20 and celebrities when they're now, and it's like, Helen Mirren is now 80, and look at her when she was 20. So it's kind of like, look at what celebrities look like when they were young, and so I go, okay. Like, yeah.
That makes more sense. Yeah,
that makes more sense. Good. I was like, oh my god, have I like discovered some like fucked up thing that? No, I'm okay. Yeah,
you're good. You're good. Should we talk about the opposite then? Like the pictures that we see that show the body positive before and afters, where someone was like, I was unhappy when I was thinner and now I've gained weight and I'm happier and more confident. Like, so what do you think of those?
Yeah, but to begin with, when I was new to body positivity, I used to be like, yes, oh my God, this is amazing. And now I'm like a little bit more nuanced in my feelings about it of, what they're saying, if we take it on a kind of surface level, is I'm happy and it doesn't matter what I look like.
Yeah.
But there is still that message that's underneath there of, I used to have an asset, yet I wasn't happy. And now I don't have that asset, which is a thin body, and I've learned to be happy even though I'm missing an asset. So it's not breaking down the assumption that having a smaller body is inherently good. And so it needs to be, I think if people show them like before and after, when, I used to be really thin and now I was miserable, there needs to be more of a dissection of, that's so interesting that I used to think that my body is an asset. And I don't know if they even had the dissection or the deeper look into it. I don't think they'd be posting the picture anyway, because then it's like, I'm still presenting my body as a thing to be consumed in a way that's not maybe helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I did a couple of those in the beginning.
Love it.
And they would get like so much engagement. And when I stopped doing those, engagement went down. And I think it's like, so I get why people do them, because they are more likely to like go viral, get more followers, like it sells the message. And so I get that as well. But why I stopped doing them like several years ago was because it was like this idea of like, you know, body positivity needs to be about centering the most marginalized bodies. And like,
Mm.
as a straight sized person, like me, like highlighting that narrative around my body, like doesn't really do anything for for the movement. Right.
Mm.
So like my own personal, like, awareness around that made me realize like, oh shit, like I don't want to do that anymore. And it was still putting the value in my body. It was still
Mhm.
putting like, you know, the identity and my value in how I looked. And I didn't want that to be the thing that like I was known for. I wanted it to be, you know, the skills that I had and the, you know, the perspectives that I had around this topic. So it was like, I think it was probably at least 5 years ago now that I like announced it on social media. Like, I will not be doing these pictures anymore. And here's what I've learned and here's why. And,
Mm.
um, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And I wonder as well how many people who are new to the idea of body positivity see in the before picture of the smaller bodied person, um, oh yeah, I'd like to look like that. And then they see the after of someone who is a higher weight, and they're like, fuck no. If that means that if I need to learn to, you know, stop dieting and accept myself, it means I'm going to gain weight. Well, I'm not going to do it. And that's not
Mm,
always the outcome of intuitive eating or body acceptance. It's like there's a million different outcomes, right? And so
yeah.
um, yeah, and I think as well, it would probably reinforce the message that accepting your body means that you know, that's something that it means you have to give up, quote unquote, give up having your current body, and that's not always a reality. But it's complicated.
Yeah.
It's complicated, right?
It is complicated. And the actually one thing that I really appreciated, somebody commented when I posted the survey, which the results of my survey were 71% of people disliked those and 29% found them inspiring.
Mm.
Um, and so one person wrote, which I think captured the essence of like what we're saying really well. I used to like how it displayed joy that someone experiences in a larger body. However, that I feel now that that can just be conveyed through the after, like just by showing like, you know,
Yes.
your body, like, you know, just having joy in your body instead of that narrative of like associating it with like a particular size change or anything like that.
Mm. It's almost a language that we have learned to speak of body comparison. That even though we're out of diet culture, we still wanna do the body comparison shots. Like we can't help it, you know, because it's just such a language that we speak of. Yeah, consuming people's bodies. And my people
Yeah.
said, when I said, what do you think of body positive before and afters that show weight gain, 36% said they love and 64% said that they hate. And the comments were, either way, they are conveying that there is a right or wrong way for a body to look. And it just feels like the same narrative that your body size is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the cultural idea of the before and after is still harmful. Yeah, so all of this stuff that we're saying.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah. You
think,
know, yeah,
go
go
on.
ahead.
I was going to say, I think there's a difference between someone who live their before is they were living in a bigger body, and thereafter is they're living in a bigger body, versus someone who is straight sized showing a still another straight size, slightly bigger straight sized body. I think there's a difference in harm created there between, oh, look at me now, I'm so fat, when they're still straight sized. Because then someone like me will see, you know, a fat person might see that straight sized body and be like, oh yeah, look at you accepting that hideous body. Really? Like, I've never had a body like that. Like, really? What would you think of my body if you think that you're accepting this? You're like a charity worker accepting that hideous body that you have, but clearly you have a normative, you know, socially acceptable body, you know?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I feel like in a lot of
Oh,
cases, there's still some dysmorphia going on because it's like someone who's like a size 2 going to a size 4 or something. And they're like,
yeah.
you know, and that's not to judge them at all. Like, that's not to judge people experiencing that, because that, you know, I get that like you can experience those levels of shame and whatnot. But from taking like, yeah, the outsider's perspective, or thinking about like, what would someone who is fat feel like, how do they feel, how would they feel seeing this? Yeah, I think is really, it's a really important consideration, because
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's exactly to your point.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that show. I never really watched it, but This Is Us with Chrissy Metz. Did you ever watch that?
I never watched it. No.
There's a lot of fat phobia in it. So, but I watched it. I watched like maybe the first season. And anyway, they go to a diet club, and it's lots of fat people, and then there's like one thin person who's like, "Oh my god, I'm so ugly," and everyone, the fat people are having to comfort her and be like, "No, you're pretty," and it's just like. Kind of feels like that, and that kind of segues into the thing that actually gets on my tits. I can and like where I'm like, oh, I really wish that people wouldn't do this, like, because it's very, very harmful. And that is when influencers, it's almost always influencers, twist themselves into like pretzels. They bend themselves over 100 times to try and get a tiny little stomach roll, which is normally just their skin. And they post that picture saying, "Oh my God, hashtag I'm so brave for going out with this. I've learned to love and accept my body, even though that, look at this role that is here." And also the pictures where it's like, "Oh, look how bloated I was at 2 p.m. And then, oh, look at 8 p.m. My stomach is so flat. Oh, it's only because I have a uterus." And so if you're fat, don't worry. It's probably only because you have a uterus. You're not actually fat. LOL. I'm just like, what? Stop that now.
Yes. I don't see those pictures anymore, thankfully. Like, but I did a bit of research for a podcast episode I did recently, where I looked up the hashtags. Like, I went and searched the hashtags like body positivity and stuff like that. And yeah, I definitely still found like a lot of some of the stuff. Yeah, there was actually, yeah, no, it made me really enraged, actually. So. But I don't really follow that stuff anymore, because it never really resonated with me much anyways, because I could see that you don't actually have a role if you have to create a role. Like, if you have to bend over, or you have to like squeeze your thigh to create cellulite and say like, you should love your cellulite. It's like, that's not.
Yeah.
But it keeps the focus on the body, which is my problem with the whole like mainstream body positivity thing anyways. But like, I mean, if you like that stuff, you like it. And it kind of, this all sort of reminded me of like, do you remember the body image movement, like the woman from the body image movement from Australia?
Yeah.
And like, the reason why like she became so popular was because she had that viral photo of like a reverse before and after. Like, one of them was from when she was doing her like weight competition, like bodybuilding competition days, and then one after when she wasn't.
Yeah.
And like, it was like it went viral. It was like news, like viewed like millions and millions of times. Yeah. And it's just so funny how I feel like maybe the times have changed since then. But it's just so funny how at the time, like, because she was still straight sized, that it's like, oh my God, like straight sized woman like accepts her body, and it's like in like all these news outlets. It's like,
like, oh my God, you're so inspiring. And
but it just speaks to how messed up the culture is, because it's like, that is like so newsworthy. You know what I mean? Like
and if she was fat, there's no way in hell any news coverage, or if the news coverage was, it'd be like, look at this person who used to be so healthy, and now look, she's really let herself go. And so that would only work if you still had a thin body, but a little bit chubby here and there in the right places, because we have to have like an hourglass figure, right? And that's so true. Yes. I remember when her movie came to Vancouver, didn't it? Did we go and watch that? Yeah.
No.
I did. I did.
I saw it at home, so I definitely didn't watch it in the theater. I think I was away or something because I remember I was going to go with you, and I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
remember.
yeah.
But
Yeah. But that is so true. And at that time, I didn't pick up on that. I didn't pick up on
yeah,
that. And
and
that
I
would
know,
have got on my
yeah.
tits. I did.
And I know
Yeah.
someone. I know someone out. Like I know there's another person that a similar thing. Like, and they went viral, and it was like got a book deal and like all this stuff. And they were like maybe a size 6 or something. Like maybe like it's like
Oh,
woman embraces her body. It's like
yeah.
but I say what like not like I'm judging the person. That's not what I mean. It's like it's like come on, like that's newsworthy. Like
Mm,
please, like the tide needs to be shifted so much more than
yeah, yeah. It's
that.
almost like
Yeah.
people wouldn't, that's all that society at the moment can take, right? Like a straight sized person who is not, buff, accepting themselves, that's like a good news story. But anything more, that would be seen as dangerous because we're encouraging people to be gluttons and whatever else people think that fatness represents. So, like,
Well,
I can kind of get it, why the media does that.
yeah. Well, if
Because,
you think about the influencers like with the most followers, they typically still really meet Eurocentric beauty standards. Um, like pretty faces, like white, like a lot have blonde hair, kind of skew like a little bit younger,
mm,
and just have like like still a straight size body, but more like not like the stick thin or musculature like ideal that you would see, that like you'd kind of typically think of when you think of the thin ideal. So it's
yeah.
yeah, but it's interesting when you start critiquing that stuff and you realize like are we really changing the culture here, or are we just like kind of upholding the same thing but like with 10 extra pounds or with
Yeah.
like 20 extra pounds? And
Yeah.
I think that's like, the more that you sort of get into this and the more that you kind of build that like, cultural awareness, the more that you start to see that it's just
Mm,
kind of the same old thing, but just packaged in a slightly different way. And again, it's like nothing against those people. I know they make a big difference in people's lives and whatnot, but,
yeah.
um, and I think it's like how you curate your own feed too. Like I tend to follow people who are like have more of a social justice message as opposed to like love your body.
Yeah. And I think about, I'm always on the fence about this because I always, we need people who do the light and fluffy stuff, right? We need people who are doing the more quote unquote palatable stuff because I mean, if it wasn't for those types of people, I probably wouldn't be here because if I had seen people who had really made me have to think deeply about fat phobia, I would have been scared off and been like, oh, I don't want to be like fat and horrible like them. I would have run off and continued dieting. And so I think we need those people, but then also the fact that we need them actively harms more marginalized fat people because if we're centering smaller people, white people, able-bodied people, etc., it means that the spotlight is naturally not on the people who are in the greatest need of justice and resources and all that type of stuff. And so it's like I'm always struggling with it of being like, we need it, but it's really harmful. We and so I think those types of people, if they are able to recognize that and be like, okay, right, I just have this body and this is it, whatever. Let's bring on, more diversity in my feed and let's use my platform and my influence for to help people with more marginalized identities than myself. That would be amazing. That'd make me happy.
Yes, yeah, I 100% see that. Yeah, like you need the gateway, like you need the gateway body
Yeah.
positivity because you're right.
Right.
Like, and I'm sure, like, I'm trying to think back of my first kind of, you know, entry into that space. Like, it probably was like someone like the body image movement woman who I can't remember
Yeah.
her name. I think Taryn or something.
Taryn Brumfitt.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
like it probably was because, it was like, oh, okay, like it was like safe.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and then you start to kind of like, hopefully people sort of start to move along the spectrum and start to like see the real like social justice piece of it, and start to follow other people who are speaking more to the political side of it, and
Yeah.
how to actually, advocate
Yeah.
and make change
But
in the culture.
even saying that, it's like, but then also the more fluffy stuff is making a change because it's kind of slowly moving things along. But then again, exactly what I just said, it's also harming people. I don't know. I don't know.
There's not a clean answer, right?
No, there's
Because
not.
some people will argue that like, well, we just shouldn't be showing bodies, but it's like, but I think we need that too, because otherwise like the mainstream media controls the bodies that you see. So you need people
Yeah.
who are also showing their body. Like, yeah, it's nuanced, and I think it's like
Yeah.
no one knows of one like right way to look at things. I
Mm.
think that people benefit from different things in their own journey, and
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
find what works for you, and hopefully eventually get to one of us.
Yeah. Yes. 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 And I really appreciate like the dietitians that I work with are exclusively thin people, and I appreciate so much when they bring me in as a fat person. It's because it's kind of like with their body, they're vouching for me, right? Because like their audience probably couldn't stomach a fat person, maybe where there are some, obviously lots of them could, but some of them maybe wouldn't navigate or towards me, but they're using their body almost as a kind of vouching for me. And I
Yeah,
think that's an awesome, cool thing, and I really appreciate it, and it's the right thing to do.
yeah, yeah. No, there's definitely good people out there, so that's positive.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yes.
right. Good
So
conversation. Anything else? I feel like we talked about everything we wanted to talk about.
no, you know what? I really like talking to you, Summer. I really like having our little episodes. So
Oh, they're
that's it.
fun.
Where
It's
can
like
people find you?
they can find me at thebodyimagecoach.com. And my podcast is called Eat the Rules. And I'm at Summer Inanen on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. What about
Have you seen
you?
this new? Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
do all the time interrupting you. Like at the end of the sentence, I'm like, oh, have you seen this new book? I think you'll like it. Laziness does not exist.
The
Devon
book?
Price. Dr. Devon Price. Yeah.
I have heard of it. I think Matt McGorry posted it like a few months
Yeah.
ago, and I remember
Yeah.
bookmarking it, but I haven't read it. No. Is it
Yeah,
good?
I'm reading it right now, and just it's totally to do with rules, and it's totally aligned with
I'll have
diet
to check it
culture.
out.
And Dr. Devon Price is fat positive and all that. Yeah, anyway, it's really good. And so
Yeah, I've
anyway,
had a couple people tell me that they really enjoyed it too, so I'll have to check it out.
yeah. So where to find me is fiercefatty.com, on Instagram, Fierce Fatty, podcast Fierce Fatty, book Fierce Fatty. Yeah. So Fierce Fatty, my new name, Vinny Wellesby. Yeah, well, thank you for hanging out with us today. Thanks
Yeah.
for the chat, Summer.
Yeah, let us know what you think, and we'll be back for another episode soon.
Yeah.